I was 28 years old when my father looked me dead in the eye and told me I'd never see a penny of his money. He said it in front of everyone. My stepmother Linda. My half-siblings Rebecca and Michael. Even the cousins who'd flown in from 3 states away. We were standing in his marble-floored living room, the one I wasn't allowed to play in as a child. The one where I'd tiptoed past as a teenager, afraid to leave a mark. "Emma," he said, voice cold and flat. "You've made your choices. Don't expect me to fund your mistakes." I remember the way Linda smiled. Small. Satisfied. Like she'd been waiting years to see this moment. Rebecca laughed. Actually laughed. And I just stood there, feeling like I was 12 years old again, being told I wasn't good enough to sit at his table. If you're enjoying this so far, don't forget to like the video and watch till the end. I'd love to hear your thoughts. The thing is, my father didn't just say I wouldn't inherit anything. He made sure everyone knew. He sent emails. He made phone calls. He told distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years that I was ungrateful, selfish, and undeserving. He rewrote his will in front of witnesses and made sure I knew about it. "You'll get nothing," he told me the last time I saw him. Not a chair. Not a dish. Nothing. I didn't cry. Not in front of him. I walked out of that house with my head up and my hands shaking, and I swore I'd never go back. 3 months later, he died. Heart attack. Sudden. He was 62. I didn't go to the funeral. I know how that sounds. Cold. Heartless. But I couldn't stand in a room full of people who'd watched him humiliate me and pretend to mourn. Linda called me afterward. Her voice dripped with false sympathy. "Your father's gone, Emma. I thought you'd want to know." "I know," I said. The funeral was beautiful. Everyone was there. Good for them. There's going to be a reading of the will next week. You don't need to come. Your father made his wishes very clear. I could hear the smugness in her voice. The satisfaction. "I wasn't planning on it," I said, and I hung up. I thought that was the end. I thought I could finally move on. Finally stop waiting for my father to love me the way he loved Rebecca and Michael. But 2 days before the will reading, I got a call from a lawyer I'd never heard of. His name was Roger Finch. "Miss Emma Hartley?" he asked. "Yes. I'm calling on behalf of your late father, David Hartley. I need to meet with you before the official reading of the will." I frowned. "Why?" "I can't discuss it over the phone." "But it's urgent." "Can you come to my office tomorrow?" Something in his tone made my stomach twist. "I don't understand." "My father made it very clear I'm not in the will." "Miss Hartley," Roger said carefully, "there are things you need to see. Things your father left specifically for you." I almost said no. I almost told him I didn't care what my father left behind. But something stopped me. Curiosity. Or maybe just the stubborn need to know what final cruelty he'd prepared for me. "Fine," I said. "I'll be there." Roger Finch's office was in an old building downtown. The kind with brass plaques and thick carpet and walls lined with legal books no one ever read. He was older than I expected. Maybe 70. White hair, sharp eyes, expensive suit. He shook my hand and gestured to a chair. "Thank you for coming, Miss Hartley. I'm here. Now tell me what this is about." He sat down across from me and folded his hands on the desk. "Your father came to me 6 months before he died," Roger said. He wanted to make changes to his estate plan. Changes no one else knew about. My heart started beating faster. What kind of changes? Roger opened a drawer and pulled out a thick manila envelope. It was sealed with red wax. My name was written across the front in my father's handwriting. He left this for you. With very specific instructions. He slid the envelope across the desk. I stared at it like it might explode. What is it? I can't tell you that. Your father's instructions were clear. You're to open it alone. After you've read it, you can decide what to do next. This doesn't make sense. He told everyone I was getting nothing. Roger's expression didn't change. Your father was a complicated man, Miss Hartley. But he was also very deliberate. Whatever's in that envelope, he wanted you to have it. I reached out and touched the envelope. The paper was thick. Expensive. What happens at the will reading? I asked. That's in 3 days. The family expects a straightforward division of assets. Your stepmother, your half-siblings, a few cousins. Standard stuff. And me? You're not mentioned in the public will, Roger said. At least, not in the way they think. My hands were shaking as I picked up the envelope. Should I be there? At the reading? Roger's eyes glinted. I think you should. I left his office with the envelope tucked under my arm and my mind spinning. I didn't open it right away. I went home. Made tea. Sat on my couch and stared at my father's handwriting. Part of me wanted to throw it away. Burn it. Pretend I never got it. But I couldn't. So I broke the seal. Inside were documents. Legal papers. Deeds. Contracts. And a letter. The letter was in my father's handwriting. Neat. Precise. Emma, it began. If you're reading this, I'm dead. And you probably hate me. I almost stopped reading right there. You have every right to. I was a terrible father to you. Distant. Cold. Cruel. My throat tightened. I want you to know that I see that now. I saw it for years, but I didn't know how to fix it. Or maybe I was too proud to try. I wiped my eyes. Your mother left when you were 5. You know that. What you don't know is that I blamed you. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. But I did. My hands clenched the paper. I built my life around control. Around perfection. And when Linda came into my life, she gave me that. A new family. A clean slate. And I let her push you out. I could barely breathe. But you need to know something, Emma. Everything I built. Everything I earned. It was always supposed to be yours. I stopped. Read that line again. Linda doesn't know this. Neither do Rebecca or Michael. The properties, the accounts, the investments, most of it is in your name. It has been for years. My vision blurred. I set it up through a private trust. Roger Finch is the executor. He's the only one who knows the truth. I flipped through the papers. Deeds to properties I'd never seen. Accounts with balances that made my stomach drop. Investment portfolios worth millions. I'm giving you what's yours, the letter continued. Not because I want forgiveness. I don't deserve that. But because you earned it. You survived me. And that's more than I ever gave you credit for. The letter ended simply. I'm sorry, Emma. I hope you use this to build a life I could never give you. Dad, I sat there for an hour, just staring at the papers. My father hadn't just left me something. He'd left me everything. The properties Linda thought she'd inherit? Mine. The vacation house Rebecca always talked about getting? Mine. The investment accounts Michael bragged about? Mine. My father had quietly, methodically, transferred the majority of his estate into a private trust with my name on it. And no one knew. I should have felt relieved. Vindicated. But all I felt was rage. Because he could have told me. He could have said something while he was alive. He could have stopped Linda from treating me like garbage. He could have told Rebecca and Michael the truth instead of letting them mock me. But he didn't. He let me suffer. Let me believe I was worthless to him. And now he wanted me to what? Forgive him because he left me money? I crumpled the letter in my fist. Then I smoothed it out again. Because I realized something. My father had given me more than money. He'd given me power. And I was going to use it. The day of the will reading, I wore black. Not because I was mourning. But because I wanted to look the part. Linda had rented out a conference room at Roger Finch's firm. She wanted it to feel official. Important. When I walked in, every head turned. Linda was sitting at the head of the table, looking like she owned the place. Rebecca was beside her, scrolling through her phone. Michael was leaning back in his chair, looking bored. A few cousins I barely recognized were scattered around the room. Emma, Linda said, her voice dripping with surprise. I didn't think you'd come. Surprise, I said flatly. Rebecca looked up from her phone. Seriously? You're here? Roger invited me, I said. Why? Michael muttered. Dad made it pretty clear you're not getting anything. I smiled. Did he? Linda's eyes narrowed. Emma, if you're here to cause a scene, I'm here because I was invited, I said. By the lawyer. So maybe you should ask him why. Roger Finch entered the room at that moment, carrying a leather briefcase. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. He sat down at the opposite end of the table and opened his briefcase. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. David Hartley's estate is complex. There are multiple components, and not all of them will be addressed in this reading. Linda frowned. What do you mean? I mean, Roger said calmly, that some portions of the estate were handled separately. Through private trusts and arrangements. Private trusts? Rebecca said. Why would Dad need private trusts? Roger didn't answer. He pulled out a document and began reading. To my wife, Linda Hartley, I leave the house at 4225 Maple Street, along with its contents and furnishings. Linda exhaled. Good. To my daughter, Rebecca Hartley, I leave the sum of $50,000 and the vehicle currently registered in my name. Rebecca's face fell. 50,000? That's it? To my son, Michael Hartley, I leave the sum of $50,000 and my collection of watches. Michael sat up straight. Wait. What about the vacation house? Roger didn't look up. I'll get to that. Linda leaned forward. What about the properties? The investment accounts? Roger set the document down. Those assets are not part of this will. The room went silent. What do you mean they're not part of the will? Linda demanded. I mean, they were transferred into a private trust years ago. They are not subject to this distribution. Linda's face turned red. That's impossible. David would have told me. David was not required to tell you, Roger said evenly. The trust was created legally and privately. Who's the beneficiary? Michael asked. Roger looked directly at me. Emma Hartley. You could have heard a pin drop. Rebecca's mouth fell open. Michael's face went pale. Linda stood up so fast her chair fell backward. That's a lie. It's not, Roger said. He pulled another stack of documents from his briefcase. David Hartley established the Emma Hartley Trust 6 years ago. It includes the vacation property, 3 rental properties, the primary investment portfolio, and several business holdings. He slid the papers across the table. Linda snatched them up, her hands shaking. This can't be legal. It's completely legal, Roger said. David worked with me personally to ensure everything was airtight. Rebecca looked at me like I'd grown a second head. You knew about this? No, I said quietly. I found out 2 days ago. Liar, Michael spat. She's not lying, Roger said. Emma was not informed of the trust until after David's death. Per his instructions. Linda slammed the papers down. This is fraud. He wasn't in his right mind. He was, Roger said. I have medical records and signed affidavits proving his mental competency at the time of the trust's creation. Linda's face twisted. She manipulated him. I didn't, I said, standing up. I haven't spoken to him in 3 years. Then why would he do this? Linda screamed. I looked her dead in the eye. Maybe because he finally realized what you are. The room exploded. Rebecca started yelling. Michael threw his phone across the table. Linda lunged toward me, and Roger had to step between us. Everyone sit down, Roger said sharply. Or I'll have security remove you. Linda was breathing hard, her face blotchy. I'm contesting this. All of it. You can try, Roger said. But you'll lose. David made sure of it. He turned to me. Emma, if you'd like to review the full details of the trust, we can meet privately. I nodded. Linda pointed at me, her hand shaking. You don't deserve any of this. I looked at her. At Rebecca. At Michael. Maybe not, I said. But it's mine anyway. And I walked out. The days after the will reading were chaos. Linda hired a lawyer. An expensive one. She filed a contest, claiming my father wasn't mentally sound when he created the trust. She tried to freeze the assets. She called me every name in the book. But Roger had prepared for this. Every document was notarized. Every signature witnessed. Every medical evaluation documented. My father had spent years making sure his plan was bulletproof. And it was. 2 weeks later, Linda's lawyer called Roger and told him they were dropping the contest. There was nothing to fight. The trust was mine. I met with Roger the next day to go over everything. The vacation house is worth about $2 million, he said. The rental properties generate around $15,000 a month in income. The investment portfolio is valued at just over $8 million. I couldn't speak. There are also business holdings. A stake in a commercial property development. Some stocks. It's complicated, but the total value of the estate in your name is approximately $12 million. I put my head in my hands. Why didn't he just tell me? Roger sighed. I asked him that. He said he didn't want you to come back for the money. He wanted you to come back for him. But I didn't. No. You didn't. Roger leaned back in his chair. Your father made a lot of mistakes, Emma. But this wasn't one of them. He knew what he was doing. I looked up. What am I supposed to do with all of this? Roger smiled. That's up to you. I spent the next month figuring it out. I sold the vacation house. I didn't want it. Too many bad memories. I kept the rental properties. The income was steady, and I hired a property manager to handle them. I reinvested part of the portfolio and donated a chunk to a charity that helped kids in foster care. Kids like me. Kids whose parents didn't choose them. And I kept the letter. Not because I forgave my father, but because it reminded me that I survived. Linda tried to reach out once. A voicemail. Apologizing. Asking if we could work something out. I deleted it. Rebecca sent a text. I didn't know Dad was treating you like that. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Michael sent nothing. And honestly, I didn't care. Because I realized something. I spent years waiting for my father to see me. To love me. And he never did. Not the way I needed him to. But he gave me something else. He gave me freedom. Freedom from needing his approval. Freedom from feeling like I had to earn my place in his life. Freedom to walk away and never look back. A year later, I was standing in the kitchen of a house I'd bought with my own money. Not my father's. Mine. It was small. Cozy. Nothing like the cold marble mansion I grew up in. And it felt like home. I poured myself a cup of coffee and looked out the window at the garden I'd planted. My phone buzzed. A text from Roger. The final transfer is complete. Everything's officially in your name. Congratulations, Emma. I smiled. Not because I was rich. But because I was free. And that was worth more than any inheritance. My father told me I'd never see a penny. And in a way, he was right. Because what I got wasn't just money. It was proof that I mattered. Even if he couldn't say it while he was alive. Even if it came too late. It was proof. And sometimes, that's enough. I set my coffee down and walked outside. The sun was warm. The air smelled like jasmine. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe. I didn't need my father's love anymore. I didn't need Linda's approval or Rebecca's friendship or Michael's respect. I had myself. And that was more than enough. Because I'd spent my whole life being told I wasn't worth anything. And now I had 12 million reasons to prove them wrong. But the money didn't change who I was. It just gave me the space to become who I was always meant to be. Someone strong. Someone whole. Someone free. And as I stood there in my garden, the wind in my hair and the sun on my face, I realized something. My father's final gift wasn't the money. It was the chance to let go. To stop waiting for him to choose me. To stop needing him at all. And that was the real inheritance. Not the houses or the accounts or the portfolios. But the freedom to walk away. And I took it. I took it and I never looked back. 6 months after everything settled, I was sitting in a coffee shop when I saw Linda. She was with Rebecca. They were laughing about something. Linda looked older. Tired. She saw me and froze. For a second, I thought she might come over. But she didn't. She just looked at me. And I looked back. And then I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked out. Because I didn't owe her anything. Not my time. Not my energy. Not my anger. I was done. And it felt good. That night, I went through my father's letter one more time. I read the part where he said he was sorry. The part where he said I deserved better. And I folded it up and put it in a drawer. Not to forget. But to remember. That I survived. That I was stronger than the people who tried to break me. And that I didn't need anyone's permission to be worth something. Because I always was. I just had to believe it. People ask me sometimes if I miss my family. And the truth is, I don't. I miss the idea of them. The family I wanted. The father who could have loved me. But I don't miss the reality. I don't miss the coldness. The cruelty. The constant feeling of not being enough. I don't miss waiting for crumbs of affection. I don't miss pretending it didn't hurt. So no. I don't miss them. What I have now is better. I have peace. I have a life I built on my own terms. I have friends who chose me because they wanted to, not because they had to. I have a future that's mine. And I have the knowledge that I survived the worst thing a child can go through. Being unwanted by the people who were supposed to love them most. And I came out the other side. Not bitter. Not broken. But whole. My father thought he was giving me money. But what he really gave me was proof. Proof that I mattered. Proof that even in his twisted, broken way, he saw me. And proof that I didn't need him to validate my worth. Because I was always worthy. I just had to see it for myself. So when people ask me what I did with my inheritance, I tell them the truth. I used it to build a life where I never have to beg for love again. Where I never have to prove I'm good enough. Where I can just be. And that's the best revenge of all. Not the money. Not the shock on Linda's face. Not the way Rebecca and Michael looked at me like I'd stolen something that was theirs. But the fact that I'm happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. And they're not. They're still fighting over scraps. Still trying to figure out how to fill the hole my father left. Still angry that I got what they thought they deserved. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm free. And that's something money can't buy. My father said I'd never see a penny. He was wrong. But in the end, the money didn't matter. What mattered was that I finally stopped waiting for him to love me. And I started loving myself instead. That's the real story. Not the inheritance. Not the betrayal. But the moment I realized I didn't need any of them. I only needed me. And I was enough. I'd always been enough. I just had to believe it. And now I do. So here's what I want you to know. If you're waiting for someone to see your worth, stop. If you're waiting for someone to choose you, stop. If you're waiting for permission to walk away from people who hurt you, stop. You don't need their approval. You don't need their love. You don't need anything from them. You just need to see yourself the way you deserve to be seen. As someone valuable. Someone strong. Someone worthy. Because you are. And no will, no inheritance, no final letter can give you that. You have to give it to yourself. I did. And it changed everything. My father told me I'd get nothing. And he was right. I didn't get his love. I didn't get his approval. I didn't get the relationship I wanted. But I got something better. I got myself back. And in the end, that was worth more than $12 million. It was worth everything.